What's up, y'all? It's Three Wheel Khalil, and I'm here where it all started to share my top 5 tips for new Can-Am Ryker owners and those of you who are thinking of getting one. Let's go. So when I say this is where it all started, I mean that this is where I actually took my MSF course through Can-Am, learning how to ride a three-wheeler and ultimately making the decision to purchase the beast that I have beneath me, my Can-Am Ryker Rally. Bearing that in mind, it should come as no surprise that my number one tip is for you all to take the MSF course. Go on Can-Am's website, search up where the local three-wheel course is for you. It's $99 through Can-Am, which is cheaper than you would actually get this course if you went directly through your MSF provider, most likely. And depending on your state, it can help you bypass, either the full test or, the written test. And not really bypass as much as you actually do that test, the written and the skills test on site during your course, and you get to skip all of that at the DMV. But most importantly, it will teach you a lot, and I mean a lot. Like, the course is not by any means the hardest thing in the world, but it is intensive in the fact that you get a lot of experience. I mean, my course was just a weekend, but you spend about half of that time on the bikes and half of that time learning about kind of motorcycle safety, the thought process of a motorcyclist, how to put yourself, in proper situations so that you can minimize your risk factors when you're doing everyday riding. But also, it provided a great forum for me to get to know the different Can-Am bikes. Like I've said in previous videos, I like Spyders and Rykers. So I got a chance to try all of the top bikes, the F3S, the F3 touring bike, the Spyder RT line, and what I now own, a Can-Am Ryker. And actually it was a Can-Am Ryker 600, which even then I thought, had a nice bit of pep and I enjoyed it. So really, dude, if you're thinking about getting one of these bikes, $100 is not a bad kind of commitment to learn about the bikes, learn if it is something that you even want to do, and also, prepare yourself and train in the process, because riding a motorcycle, whether it be 3 wheels, 2 wheels, etc., it's still a risk, and being prepared for any sort of risk is going to help you greatly. So I definitely recommend to anybody who's even considering the pastime, take the MSF course through Can-Am. It's $100. The information is invaluable. The training exercises are great, and it prepared me so much. Even I took my course 4 months before I bought my bike, and within a couple, I'd say 20 minutes of riding my bike, I felt like it just came right back to me, just because of the amount of repetition that I was able to get on that bike and learn and do a lot of those kind of quick maneuvers that we had to do during the course. So I recommend to anybody, take the MSF course. Plus, at the absolute least, you save some money on your insurance costs with proof of passing that course. Moving on to a very important topic that is actually touched on in that MSF course, which is practicing safe throttle control. And by that I mean keeping a flat wrist when engaging the throttle, which allows you to have a lot more control, engage a smoother kind of acceleration, rather than engaging what they call whiskey throttle, which is engaging too much throttle, kind of ripping it toward you every time that you're touching the gas, and possibly putting yourself in dangerous situations because you've given it too much throttle prior to really understanding the conditions you're in, understanding how much you're going to accelerate in a given period of time or in a physical space. And that can be really dangerous out there on the road. So that's something that you honestly actively want to be training yourself to do better. and that's keeping a very flat wrist. It's something that I try to do to myself every day since I've been riding, because sometimes I notice that I'm just a little bit over and my throttle response was a little jerky, and it's because sometimes you kind of do that caricature of a dirt bike where you want to just kind of rip it, and it's not a great way to handle the bike. And you want to actively train yourself that in a situation where it is reaction and you have to react without necessarily thinking, that you're in the position that you've been training yourself the right way, and that it shows in those times where you need to make a quick movement or a quick response, that you're responding properly. So that's something that I definitely think everybody train yourself, keep a flat wrist, look at yourself at stoplights, think about how your acceleration feels when you come off of a stoplight, and kind of program yourself to do something the right way every time, so that when it is an emergency, it's not a question of can you do it or am I doing the right thing? You know that you're going to do the right thing because you always do the right thing. Keeping that in mind, how quickly you twist the throttle is not the only factor that determines throttle response. One of the biggest factors is actually the computer on the Can-Am Ryker and the mode that is selected. So you as the rider can choose the mode, and every Ryker has at least 3 modes: Eco, Eco Off, and Sport mode. The Rally edition has another mode, which is the Rally mode. Now, Eco On and Off are pretty straightforward. Eco Off is the standard operating kind of mode of the bike. It's what it's going to boot up to every time. Eco On limits throttle response and the maximum throttle opening to give you better gas mileage and a little bit of a smoothing of the acceleration in case you have a jerkier acceleration and you're learning the bike. So I actually recommend this when you're first riding the bike. Eco mode, if you're not an experienced driver, can help you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable because it's going to kind of lessen the harshness of the throttle response. Now, going on up the chain is where we get a little bit more nuanced, and that's in Sport mode and Rally mode. Now, prior to me getting a bike, I thought Sport mode just kind of dealt with the throttle response and making the bike feel a little bit more peppy. But Sport mode actually intervenes or makes the bike intervene less using the VSS system, which is the Vehicle Stability System. So you also get the added benefit of the quicker throttle response. It will feel peppier, but it also does let the back wheel spin a lot. It does let you get sideways a decent little bit. So you're going to get that in the Sport mode. However, the Rally mode turns that up a notch because it says that it is tuning it for loose gravel roads where that traction control would be holding you back a decent bit, since you're going to be losing traction. It's part of riding on a gravel road. So it kind of lets you have a little bit more freedom on those type of roads. So both of those modes, however, it's important to understand that both of those modes significantly scale back the VSS system. So riding in the rain in Sport mode is that's something that you should consider, and that's something you should understand. If you totally feel comfortable with your bike, you've been out on the road with Sport mode on, possibly in a controlled setting first, hey, more power to you. But I definitely think everybody should know how the bike responds in those situations before you go throw it out. In the middle of a rainstorm, you turn Sport mode on and don't realize that your traction control is significantly lessened, and you could possibly be putting yourself in somewhat of a dangerous situation. So just keep those in mind. All of that information that I just told you is based on what I've read in the manual. My bike didn't come with a manual. I actually grabbed mine from the Can-Am website, so I will link that in the description down below. Download a copy for yourself if you didn't get one with your bike. And just as I want you guys to be prepared with knowledge by having access to your owner's manual, it's also very important to be prepared with gear when you pick up your Can-Am Ryker. So my 4th tip is have some essential gear ready the day that you buy your Ryker. do not, and I repeat, do not buy your gear at the dealership the same day that you buy your Ryker. I say that for a few reasons. Not as a slight to the dealership, not that I think that they're going to rip you off. Actually, I've bought some of the Ryker aftermarket accessories from my dealer, and I get a better deal than I would get online. So definitely you can buy it from the dealership, but do not buy it the day that you're buying your Ryker. I say that because the day you buy your Ryker, you're going to be somewhat in a hurry. Everybody knows that the process of buying cars, bikes, etc. takes way too long. You're going to be kind of going off of the euphoria of the situation and getting some gear and getting out of the dealership before it closes or getting on your first ride. You don't want to be rushed into buying gear, man. I gotta say, finding a helmet that fits just right and is the right quality, it's not a quick process. I actually recommend getting some gear, your essential gear, before your MSF course. Go to your local motorcycle shop or your dealership, try on different helmets, research helmets, buy your helmet and possibly your gloves before you even take your course, possibly your boots as well. Those are a couple things that if you take the time beforehand to research them, then there are things that you won't have to replace in a couple months or just deal with because they're uncomfortable or you don't like the look that much just because you felt rushed at the dealership to get something so that you could get out on the road. My recommendation, take your time. Go to the dealership on a day that, you have no commitment. Spend some time, learn about the products, do some of your own research, and buy things when you're not under the gun of also getting your bike and getting out of the dealership. My main things I'd say to have on the day that you pick up your bike: helmet, glove, boots. Those are the top three things. Of course, you can fill in the gaps there and get good riding gear. But those are the top three things I think you should have, and you should take some time to research and find stuff that works for you, not what the dealership wants to sell you the same day that you're buying your bike. And my last tip is another one of preparation, but a completely different type of preparation. And that preparation is for the attention that you'll get. Now, you may or may not realize this, but man, riding a three-wheel motorcycle, especially one that looks like the Can-Am Ryker, is going to put you right in front of a lot of people. People, for some reason, go crazy about the looks on the bike. I cannot tell you how many times I get stopped in my neighborhood, down the street, at the supermarket, people just to tell you that, hey man, your bike looks cool, or man, where'd you get that? Or, my favorite is always, oh man, that looks fun. People say that to me all the time. Oh man, that looks fun. I don't know what to say to that. I usually am just, yeah, it is. That's usually my response. It is. I have no other response other than that. But it is something that you kind of get used to. I have a Cardo Pack Slim in my helmet, so I am often listening to music. So then people will come up to me when I'm like parking at the gas station and like want to talk, and I'm totally jamming out to my music in my helmet. So then I've got to tell them to wait for 5 seconds while I press pause, and then they continue to ask me questions about my bike. So it is one of those things that one of the reasons that we love the Can-Am Ryker is that it is unique and it is different and it is eye-catching. And it's the same reason that people are going to want to walk up to you and want to talk to you about your bike and possibly ride your bike and all of these things. That is to be expected. It comes with the territory. So just know, buying a Can-Am Ryker as an introvert, you're going to meet new people. People are going to want to talk to you. It is part of the game on riding one of these bad boys. But it's also a fun part, man. Kind of being able to be a little bit of a spokesperson for Can-Am and the Ryker family. It's pretty cool, man. It does show you that the kind of view of three-wheel bikes is shifting. I see people who come up to me are young and old, men and women, black and white and Asian and what have you. People are interested in the Can-Am Ryker, and I think it's kind of that tipping point where people start to realize that three-wheel motorcycles are their own thing and they're really cool and they can be just as visceral as a two-wheel motorcycle, and it can be its own different thing, and that's all right. And I think that you should just know that buying a Can-Am Ryker, you will become an ambassador of the Can-Am brand to the people in your local area. So be prepared for the looks and the conversations that come along with it. Alright, y'all, that's just my top 5 tips for a new Ryker owner or a prospective Ryker owner, but I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What is your number 1 tip that you would tell someone if they just bought a Ryker or were about to buy a Ryker? Leave it in the comment section below, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to be a part of the journey. Thank you, and remember, life's more fun on 3 wheels. Peace.